that I'm part of, that I go around teaching all the different centres, is for short FPMT. So the website is fpmt.org, and it's the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition, fpmt.org. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk more about death, and I think there's some questions. What's your question?
On concern of consciousness.
Sorry?
Because talking about the consciousness and the attraction of consciousness.
At the time of conception,
yes,
what drives the person to the womb, yes.
Exactly. So then, in the case of the children conceived in a tube,
I understand.
artificially.
Okay, I understand. It's very interesting. Obviously, in the Tibetan text, the Buddhist text, they don't talk about that. But the point is, the egg and the sperm are in the petri dish, but the consciousness doesn't go there until it's in the womb. So it can't be. So then, who knows? It must be a similar thing. It must be the. You see, the point is, it is complicated now, because the egg could come from another mother and be put into this different womb, and the sperm could come from another daddy. So it's kind of, don't ask me how it works. Don't ask me, you know. I don't know. Because you've got to have, the person whose consciousness joins that egg and sperm obviously has a strong connection with the sperm donor. I remember, it's like a nightmare now. You read about all these young student guys selling their sperm, and now they're discovering they've got about 400 children around the world, and these children are looking for their daddy. I mean, it's a bit scary. I mean, I remember this Swedish boy who started it all, and now he's finding all his siblings around the world, looking like this blonde, blue-eyed Swedish boys, just like their daddy, who's been selling his sperm since he was a student. So it's kind of weird. So obviously you can deduce that those sentient beings have very strong karma with that sperm donor, even though it wasn't their father who brought them up. So otherwise they wouldn't meet each other, because if you meet each other, that means there's karma between you. Do you understand my point? I mean, you can see some children have no interest in their parents. They leave, they never see their parents again, because there's not a very strong karma between them. There's not much history. So we can see it. You can have an adopted child and have an instant connection with an adopted child. It's the same. It's the strong karmic connection between you. So that's what drives you together more than anything. I'm just talking. I don't know. I'm not giving you a definitive answer. But what drives two people to even meet, enemies and friends, beloveds, mothers, fathers, it's the karma between them. So, a mother can have much more strong karmic connection with an adopted child than with the one in her own womb, even though in the West we think the womb is the special one. Because it's karma between them, it's history. You meet each other somehow, Do you understand my point?
Is it the same with animals?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Same, all sentient beings. Yeah, absolutely.
I have one more.
Huh?
About that this time. What we can say to some people, somebody that is dying, and his point of view about life,
yes.
It's so, let's say, materialistic, so mechanistic.
Yes.
That the body is just like a car.
Yes.
Stops,
well, it's up to him. It's to help him be peaceful. To help him be peaceful. Tell him what a good man he is. What a good man. You've led a good life. You're going to leave behind you good things. Help him calm down. Everybody freaks out, So just speak to him in his terms. And that means praise him, which means his mind will calm. You praise his kindness. You praise his compassion. You praise his virtue. And that means that will come to the fore of his mind. Helpful. Okay, if he's freaking out and having a panic attack and screaming and yelling, still do whatever you can to make him peaceful, to make him calm. Even to let him hear words that will be helping him, like the Buddha's words. Even that. What can you do?
I have a question with one thing you said in the morning about the Christian that sees Christ or the
yes.
whatever.
Yes.
I had experiences through Reiki, by doing Reiki,
yes.
that first of all I would see angel and they would tell me a name that I didn't know. I would have to go to a book to find out. Zaki, for example, I wouldn't know. It's like I would have to go to a book. I've seen ancient Greek gods and I
understand.
I'm not taking drugs.
I understand. I understand.
I went to the library
yes.
to see, it's like, oh my God, I'm going crazy.
That's right, I know.
I felt Thor, I've seen Buddha.
Yes, I understand.
It's like, how come from all these religions?
Because you've got these imprints in your mind of these different things, either from, certainly from past lives. And so by your thinking these things now, by looking and you trigger, by doing certain action where you're allowing your subtle consciousness to be more prevalent, you're getting out of your ego, then these imprints are in your mind. You're randomly picking up memories in your computer, Not randomly, but they're there.
Previous life.
Yeah, for sure, it has to be. You put them in your mind. They're there from the past. Everything that comes up in our mind, all the fears, all the ugly things,
So
all the
it's my
nightmares.
projection of the Artemis or Buddha. It's my projection that I saw them.
Yes, you have the karma with this, and then you interpret it, call that. I mean, this guy called that light Jesus. He called it Jesus. A Buddhist would call it something else. And would appear some other way. Because our mind, you see, this is what's so interesting. Well, this is coming to emptiness now. It sounds abstract to us. We assume when we see something out there, this is exactly how ignorance works, Buddha says. This is exactly how this ego-grasping, this primordial delusion that thinks everything is self-existent, out there, from its own side. The classic way that manifests is that here I am here, nothing to do with me, and all these things come at me, Like chocolate cake, look at it, demanding that I eat it. This horrible person over there making me angry. This beautiful thing over there making me happy. We literally think they are solid, concrete, real things out there from their own side, having nothing to do with my mind. And the more, the Buddha says, you look into this business of emptiness and karma, the more you loosen the grip, looser and looser, and you realize it is true I am seeing that, but that is my karmic appearance. Due to my past karma, my delusions, my violence, my anger, my love, my compassion, I will see hell, I will see heaven, I will see goodness, I will see badness. It is true, it's there, but it's constructed by my past actions and my mind. It sort of sounds a bit cosmic, but that's the implication of emptiness and karma. Are we communicating here?
Yes.
We create it. It sounds kind of cosmic. But it's not what it says. So the mistake we make, look at it, okay, look at a typical person in this. This is answering your point, is it? Sort of.
Like if I see an angel, I created it, and if I see...
If you see, people sometimes live their lives seeing monsters, nightmares, going insane, paranoid, believing in conspiracy theories, convinced people are coming at them, convinced there are worms coming out of your eyes, right? We call that mentally ill, isn't it? Mm-hmm. They are literally the karmic imprints from their own delusions, their own suffering, that are popping up like crazy memories now. So whatever we're seeing is now from our own past imprints. So if you see an angel, you call it something. You see a devil, you call it that. They're imprints in the mind from both your delusions and your karmic and your habits. And all these memories are stored in there. They pop up, It's like that.
So they're my illusions.
Don't say they're illusion. They are true insofar as your mind created them. But they're illusory. They're like illusions insofar as they're not solid out there, having nothing to do with you. Which is how they appear to us. Like they're sort of like, they seem like nothing, they seem
what
like...
What if you've got an information, let's say, about the future and it came out? What if you got information about the future, like from an angel, about the future that my grandmother's going to die in 3 months?
Nothing wrong. It's just a way, it's nothing wrong.
How would I project that? How would I know that she's going to die in 3 months?
But your mind is perfectly capable of this. When you've developed your mind, removing delusions, lessening neurosis, lessening ego grasping, growing virtue, growing goodness, your consciousness expands. That means you can literally see the past. You can literally see the future. You can literally see the minds of others until eventually your mind is pervading the universe, seeing that which exists. That's what a Buddha is. That's what we're capable of. So the fact is, if you, let's say, were a really good gardener, that means you know all the rules about botany, yeah? And I know nothing. Let's say I don't even know that exists. And then you've got this acre of ground and it looks to me like it's barren. But you've sowed all these seeds. Now, if you're a gardener, you know perfectly well, you know which seed to plant, don't you? And you choose the seed because you want that fruit. That's reasonable, isn't it? In other words, the law of cause and effect. So then you tell me, you'll give me a vision of how your garden will look in 50 years. You could do that if you're a good gardener, couldn't you? Mm-hmm. And I will say, wow, you must be clairvoyant. Do you understand my point? Mm-hmm. No, you'll say, I just know the laws of botany, Robina. I can predict. Same with karma, Buddha says, it's a natural law. So you can predict exactly, because all the seeds that will ripen as our experiences in 5 years' time, we planted them a long time ago. Just like a fruit tree doesn't come that day. The fruit tree doesn't manifest that instant you plant it. It takes time, and then it will manifest. So because you know what causes that fruit tree, you can predict it in the future. That's called science. This is too the same, Buddha says. So it doesn't mean it's set in stone, because other laws can intervene, called storms, which will knock your garden over, And there's a million other variations that could happen. But the seeds we've planted, that produce this life, and the seeds we plant now, they're sowing lives for countless lives in the future. Countless lives. So the more powerful our mind, the more we can see this and the past. It's even, I remember one time, one Australian doctor, years ago in the 60s, wrote a book about reincarnation and his own findings from his own patients. And he would do hypnosis. Very sweet guy, you know. And he said one day, there's this famous horse race in Australia called the Melbourne Cup. It's the 1st of November every Tuesday, first Tuesday of every November. It's this famous horse race, the Melbourne Cup. And so this fellow came to him the day before the Melbourne Cup, on the Monday it must have been, and he went into trance, and he proceeded, when he came out of his trance, he proceeded to describe, and they both laughed about it, all the races tomorrow and who won what race. And they kind of joked. Well, sure enough, the next day, that's exactly how it happened. But they thought it was funny. But it was, in fact, he saw exactly everything. Because the causes of all that event on Tuesday didn't just happen on Tuesday. We think it just pops up out of nowhere. We think today is a brand new day. That's like thinking there's no law that produces flowers, and suddenly one day weeds will come and no one knows why. One day flowers will come and no one knows why. That's how we lead our lives. We're living in terror and horror because we don't know what causes things. If you know the law of karma, Buddha says, you know how to handle. So first of all, you know what seeds you don't want to plant, and you know the seeds you do want to plant, and then you can be confident about the future. You relax and die and go to the next life with comfort, you know. So all of that stuff's stored. Of course we can see the future. The Buddhas are beings who can see everything perfectly. Buddha says, which sounds like God, but Buddha says everyone can do it. It's the potential of all minds. That's what Buddha's saying. It's all there, available to us. It's the capability of our minds. And that's why the Buddha says, that which exists, whatever it is necessarily knowable by my mind. Because our minds create everything. Finally. There's no superior being running the show. That's his view about the creator business. Do you understand what I'm saying? We do it. It's just that we don't think we do. That's the worst suffering. We think we're victims of somebody else's handiwork. That's why we live in so much fear. Do you understand what I'm saying? What else? Anything? About the death process or whatever? Anything? People?
Meditation.
What time?
Meditation.
You want to? Yeah, okay. I know. I always resist this because people. We have these cliched ideas about meditation, like some magical mystery to it, but it's not. Okay, let me then describe this first technique, the concentration technique, which is a really excellent technique. The Hindus created it, remember? The goal of it, long term, which most of us won't achieve in this life, unless we're really intensely serious practitioners and go off for years into the mountains, is called single-pointed concentration, or known in Sanskrit as shamatha, which is translated as calm abiding. And what it's referring to, again, remember when we've accomplished it, is the subtler level of consciousness. Okay, the terms I used before are technical terms from the Vajrayana, from Buddhist Tantra. Gross consciousness, subtle consciousness, very subtle consciousness. They're technical terms. So when I say subtler here, I'm meaning in general. Because they say the techniques in the Buddhist Tantra, which I'll talk about, are more profound techniques that enable you to get to more subtle levels of mind, which we need to do eventually. They're much more profound. Here still, nevertheless, it's pretty astonishing that we're able to access levels of consciousness that are beyond the conceptual and beyond the sensory, okay, to subtle levels, but they're not spaced out. They're super clear, super focused, like I said before, you know, this subtler, more refined level of consciousness. So, but in general, most of us in this life won't get much deep concentration. And like I said, it's described in terms of 9 stages. Most of us won't even get past the first, probably, and that's okay, don't worry. But my point is this, which I mentioned briefly, and I'll say it again. The real benefit for most of us from doing, even 5 minutes a day, 5 quality minutes doing these techniques. The immediate benefit is that because you're consciously making the decision to not blindly follow every thought, mindlessly follow every thought, which is what we're doing, mindlessly caught up in the dramas in our head, we're stepping out of it and consciously not following We're consciously staying on one thing, like the breath. That's what you're consciously doing. You're not trying to, okay, people think this kind of meditation, you're trying to get rid of thoughts. No. That you're trying to get a good feeling. No. You're trying to relax. No. None of those things is what you're trying to do. This is a really simple technique. The job that you're doing in this technique is using all your attention, supported by strong determination, to simply watch the breath as it goes out, right here, like the sensation, and watch it as it goes in. You're focusing, your focal point is at the nostrils. So it's technically a really simple technique, but we put so much dramas and romance and mystique around it. It's simply a technique. A communist could do it. It is not religious. It's not spiritual. Please hear my point clearly. I can't stress this strong enough. A thief needs this. A sniper could use this. So the purpose for doing it is so that we can see our mind, so we can be a spiritual practitioner. How fantastic. But you can actually say in its nature it's not spiritual. Can you hear that point?
Yes.
It's a technical skill, you know. Don't romanticize it. This is why I always avoid talking about it. It's just so we completely lose the plot when we say the word meditation. Oh. So the immediate benefit, because you're using your discipline to just watch the boring old breath. That's why we don't last by doing it, because it's so boring. Who wants to watch their breath? We'd much rather involved in all our dramas, you know. This is because we're just complete suckers for our thoughts and our feelings. But this is such a discipline. It's just simply, and it's technically really easy, but incredibly difficult. Because when we are addicted to the thoughts, we're addicted to our feelings, we're addicted to following this and following that. That's why it's so hard to accomplish any decent concentration. But you don't give up, you just do it. And so the immediate benefit is because you're consciously just watching some boring old breath. Your thoughts are going to be running berserk anyway, like they normally do, but you're sort of stepping out of them. So you can't help but hear them raging on. And as they all say, one of the signs of success is you think your mind's getting more berserk. It's not. You can't help but notice out of the corner of your mind, because you're watching the breath, the thoughts seem more crazy. We've never paid attention to them before in any coherent way, you know. So the immediate benefit of this is that you're stepping out of the mess, and you therefore are able to start to hear all the crazy stories. All your crazy roommates start popping up. And you hear and this is the point, this is the real point. Not just feel the feelings. That's so superficial. Is to hear the stories that anger's saying. Jealousy, low self-esteem, depression, anxiety, love, compassion. They've all got a name, these roommates of yours. And you've got to learn to listen to their story. And slowly, because you're becoming familiar with hearing them and you've got some focus, you bring in your daily life, bring this focus to bear in your own daily experiences. And you can't help it as you're doing the dishes, as you're driving the car, you're noticing all the stories. And so slowly what's happening is, because you're becoming more conscious, you don't just blindly respond to something that occurs. You're paying attention and you're listening to all the stories of anger growing and coming up. And then before it gets to the mouth, you've already argued it down. You've got your nice roommate coming out and calming poor anger down before it vomits out the mouth. Can you hear me? This is the immediate benefit, please, so we can be our own therapists in a really intelligent way. It is not a cosmic event. It is not spaced out. It is not mystical. It's really hard work. That's day to day. So long term, of course, you get more advanced. You do all your practices, you get more skillful, you control your body and speech, you live in vows, you abide by the laws of karma, you don't harm others, you know your mind, you become your own therapist, you learn the model of the mind more deeply, you get more deep concentration. And then also you do all the techniques from Tantra, which I'll talk about, the visualization techniques, you're saying all these mantras, you're purifying your mind, all these different techniques that we do that support the job of being your own therapist. This is the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, you know, the style, the approach. So gradually you get better and better as you go through your life at seeing your thoughts, at hearing your thoughts. But the other crucial part of being a Buddhist, like I've mentioned, because, you know, I've taken on the big picture, not everybody would choose that I'm using the view of karma as my way of interpreting myself and my life every single day. And that is what radically helps change your mind. Because the reason that we get upset and angry now and offended and fearful is because we don't have any understanding of why things happen. Because we believe that mummy and daddy made me. Because we believe it's not my fault. Because we believe I'm some product of someone else's handiwork. We've got all these different philosophies. I mean, this is a Buddhist approach. So I'm taking more and more into my mind the Buddhist view of how things exist. And that's full-on, day-to-day thinking and analysing. That's not spacing out. Believe me. That's actually practice too. But the focus one is just, it improves the quality of your mind. Your ability to be more clear, to see what's going on, to be your own therapist, to buy less into the rubbish and more into the goodness. It's a skill. It's a marvellous psychological skill. This is what concentration meditation is. You know? Or it's known more colloquially these days as mindfulness meditation. So let me even talk about that. This word, you know, the Buddhist model of the mind. The Buddhist model of the mind, as I've been talking all the time, talks about how we have these delusions and the virtues. And then there's other ones I'm saying, like the mechanics of your mind. They're all the different states of mind. They're not parts of the brain. They're different states of mind. They all have their own function. So the main one, the first one that starts everything, is this intention. Intention. Just even the simple action of walking out the door, there has to first be the thought. I don't mean motivation when I say intention. Not motivation. The thought, I will walk out the door. Like I say, my legs will not pick me up unless I have that thought. That's the very first one. At every millisecond, we've got an intention. The next one is attention. You pay attention specifically to the job of walking out the door. Then you have another part called recognition, which is like an intelligence that's happening every millisecond that gets me to realise there's the door as opposed to over there. If I'm gone mad, I'll walk into the heater. You know, like you lost the plot, you walk into the heater. If you become senile, so you don't know where the door is, you forgot. Then you have a piece called mindfulness, which is crucial. And all that is, it's been given a big meaning now, but all it is referring to one part of your mind that's absolutely vital. That if I'm walking from here I've decided I will walk out the door, I pay attention, my recognition recognises there's the door as opposed to there, and I walk in one direction. But if halfway through I stop and I go, oh, what was I doing? Like I've been doing my teaching, right? Like we do every day. That's because your mindfulness forgot. Mindfulness is the name given to the ability to remember what you're doing millisecond by millisecond. So that's what gets me. So attention, intention, recognition, mindfulness, alertness, another part that watches to make sure it's all working together. All these bits working nicely to do the simple action of walking out the door. You hear my point here? I'm not talking about the brain here. I'm talking about different parts of your states of mind that are like the mechanics of your mind. I like to use that term, not physical. And there's many of these, millions of these, all doing their job. Now these are neither good nor bad. A sniper also needs those. A thief also needs those. Every one of them. That's why they say they're neither virtuous nor non-virtuous. But they're super important. And these all work beautifully in the job of watching the breath. You've got to have your mindfulness, which is not forgetting what you're doing. You've got to have the alertness, which is watching to make sure it all works nicely. You've got to have your intention to do it. You've got to pay attention. You've got to have vigilance. You've got to have this. You've got to have recognition. All these bits, you're training these pieces to all work beautifully to end up getting a focused, concentrated mind. Oh, thank you. Thank you, God. Very nice. Thank you so much. So given that, now let's briefly talk about this meditation technique, and then we'll do it, okay? We'll do 3 minutes, 4 minutes, start it. So, okay, this technique the job is to pay attention to one particular object that you choose. You can start with an external one. The breath is external. The breath's external, but it's a bit closer to the mind. Whereas your shoes are external, but you can even start with your shoes. Don't think you can't. It doesn't have to be holy like a lotus or a candle. It can be. You can focus on anything. It doesn't matter. But it's helpful to go internal a bit more. So breath is good. It's still external because it's not the mind. Because when you get to more advanced levels and you go into subtle mind, your breath will have stopped. So you can't be focusing on that. So finally, the best object, as they call, which doesn't mean a physical thing, the thing you focus on is in your mind. You know, it's like a visualization, or it's the mind itself. That's when it's quite more advanced. The actual thoughts themselves. There's many meditations. So we're going to start with the sensation of the nostrils, okay? So, okay, like I mentioned briefly before, the two main obstacles that prevent this, and this is generalized, are the tendency of our mind to be overexcited, overthinking, never stopping, chat, 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 going berserk. Or the other tendency is to go to sleep. You know, you can see. So between these two, these extremes, is when you're wide awake and wound up, that's the busy, busy, busy of the daily life, and the other extreme is complete unconsciousness of sleep. So when you sit down to meditate, it's less vivid, these two. You don't sink into sleep, well, it can be. But they call that dullness, when the mind becomes thick, but quiet, but dull, no sharpness, no clarity, none at all. That's why this technique is not a relaxation technique. You can relax. There are wonderful techniques that people have developed, but this is not to relax. This is exactly what you don't want to do. I don't mean to be tense, but there's got to be some healthy tension. You know, if you were walking on the edge of a cliff, wouldn't you have the most incredible attention? You'd have the most incredible mindfulness. You have the most incredible vigilance. All these states of mind would be on the alert. You'd be so sharp because you would never dare for 1 second to not pay attention, would you? Because you'll fall off. You wouldn't be worried about being tense. When you're driving your car, you've got to have that kind of tension. You're not going to space out and be relaxed. You're going to kill yourself in 1 minute. You've got to have it. You've got to pay attention. But you know yourself, when you first begin to drive, it's exhausting. But once you learn, it's easy. You can be 120k, you know, in Germany, 80 k's an hour relaxed. Well, it depends on the person, I suppose. I love driving fast. What?
I saw your video.
Oh, you did? Huh? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you get my point. If you're driving in the beginning when you're not used to it, you have every bit of your being is wide awake. You would never dare think, oh, I'm going to relax now. Excuse me. Well, watching your breath is the same. We're not used to doing it. We're completely disasters. We never notice our thoughts. We're all over the place, you know, completely berserk. So you've got to have incredible, you know, you've got to use determination. You've got to be determined not to let the breath go for 1 minute. I remember doing an entire retreat with Lama Yeshe. It was about Mahamudra, these marvellous techniques, more advanced techniques about learning the teachings about understanding the nature of your mind and meditating on the nature of your mind. It's more subtle, it's more hard. But he got us to do 5-minute sessions of concentration. It was wonderful, because we sit there for 20 minutes. 99% of that 20 minutes for most of us is complete spaced out. Some people have the ability to sit nicely and be quite comfy, you know. That person, they look, when you close your eyes and you watch your breath, most of that time you're just being very relaxed, very spaced out. That is not this meditation. What you've got to do with this concentration, this is my way of saying it, it's almost like you've got to retain the clarity and sharpness, razor sharpness of the busy mind, but without the busy. Can you see what I'm saying? And combining it with the absolute stillness of the dull mind without the dullness. It's like a miracle. We don't have those two combinations. We don't have absolute clarity and sharpness and still. We have clarity and sharpness, it's berserk. We have still and it's dull. Can you hear what I'm saying? It's almost like an invisible place for us. So to get to this point where you stop the berserk but keep the sharp, and stop the dull but keep the calm, it's very difficult. People spend years accomplishing this result. So of course the prerequisite to even go off to do a retreat on this, not to mention doing a little bit every day, but if you want to be seriously do a retreat on this, you're quite qualified already. You've got to be very subdued with your body and speech. You've got to really have harnessed the energy of your body and speech, not just stuff 27 pieces of chocolate every day and jump on every girl you meet and shout at every person you don't like and be mean and ugly. Forget it. You can't meditate for 1 second. Calm your body and speech first. Harness your body and speech first. You've got to be completely content with whatever food you get. You've got to have no worries about mortgages and husbands and neediness and people loving you and music and food and this and sex and drugs and rock and roll. You've got to really have subdued your body, speech and mind to an incredible degree already. Then you're qualified to go off and not turn back and not think of all that. It's gone. You don't need. So most of us aren't qualified to do this because we have so many responsibilities and lives and mothers and babies and houses and this and that. And that's cool. That's our life. That's why to even do 2 days of it, to put things behind and go off for a couple of days to do a retreat of any kind is fantastic for our minds, you know. So they go off and do long-term retreat to accomplish this single point of concentration. You've got to be quite advanced already. You've got to have given up the world, really, in one sense, to do this. Not in one sense, excuse me, to do it. But most of us won't do that. Therefore, we can do a bit every day. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. It improves the quality of our life insofar as we become more conscious of our own mind and thoughts and dramas, and slowly, with other practices, develop the skill to be in charge of our lives, you know, be our own therapists, develop compassion. So, okay, so to start even, there's been found from all the great meditators in the past centuries, there's a really conducive way to sit. So the classic one, so we'll start doing it now, okay? So the classic one is what they call full lotus position. There's something that's found by all the great meditators that when you can get your instep on each thigh, there's something very stable about that. But also it configures, it aligns all the subtler energies in a very good way. But actually, as the Dalai Lama says, to do the most advanced practices, you need to sit in this position. There's something about the subtler energies. So most of us can't do it, but even he says if you start a session, if you can, even for a second, to get both legs up, it sows the seed. It puts the imprint in the mind for the future, you know. But if you can't, it's okay, put one leg up. If you can't do that, regular. If not that, a chair, you know. Sit whatever way you can. First one is your legs, so we start sitting, whatever way you can. I'll talk about it first, then we'll just do like 5 quality minutes. You'll see, you know, 5 minutes, no more. But I'll talk first to explain. So get yourself comfy. If you are sitting in a chair, which you're not, I am the only one, then you sit with your feet firmly planted on the ground, which I sort of can do, just reach. Yep. Okay. So the next one, if you're sitting cross-legged, it's ideal that you don't lean against the wall or a chair. You sit. Best is you hold yourself upright. Best. If you can't, that's fine. Don't you worry. Best to have your. The second point is your back. Okay. Your legs full lotus or whatever. Then underneath you, the cushion. You each got to find the way. You know, best scenario they all would say is to be able to have your legs completely flat on the ground and something just propping up your coccyx. But some of us, we just have to work what's best. You know, you find what's working best for your own body. The next one is your hands. So there's many different mudras, they call it, or gestures that are found by different traditions. So the classic one we would learn, but you can decide what you like, is left hand underneath, right on top, thumbs touching, forming a triangle here. I've heard that there's 2 subtle channels related at the thumb tips that are related to compassion. I'm not sure. I don't know where I heard that somewhere. So don't take it too seriously. In your lap, but not arms not squeezed, but apart like this. But if you don't want that, you can sit like this. Whatever you like, you decide, okay? So that's your legs, your bottom, your hands. The next one is your back, and that's a really important one. In fact, they say you should visualize, imagine, don't visualize, but think of your spine like an arrow, ramrod straight, okay? And the head of the arrow is the coccyx, pointing directly into the earth. So then, actually they don't say this, but it extends from this. No, the next point is your shoulders, very straight, square, but not tense. So extension of this, if you think about it, is that you think of your whole, I like to think this, your whole skeleton. Think of it as hanging on a hanger. Everything's ramrod straight. So have your body like that. Then all the soft bits, all the flesh, all the muscles hanging on the hanger, absolutely relaxed. So keep your body upright, but completely relax the muscles. It's a really good combination of upright but relaxed. So especially your abdomen, we always tense that. Flop the muscles, okay? Flop the muscles. Your shoulders, upright but flop the muscles. Relax the muscles, but your body upright. It's a perfect combination. Because if you slump your body, then it squashes all the channels and the airs can't go through properly, and that dulls your mind and you space out. Now your head, several points. Very important. The first one, the crucial one, is don't have your head thrust back. It makes you agitated. Have your head slightly tilted forward your chin tucked in a bit, just a bit. And you feel it. It gives the feeling of looking inward, you know. The next one is your jaw, relaxed, lips slightly apart. And then oddly enough, but it has a lot of logical meaning, put the tip of your tongue behind the top teeth, just near the palate. This apparently stops you, if you're meditating a long time, it stops you from dribbling and having to swallow your spit a lot. It's very practical. And now your eyes. Many meditators who are doing long-term meditation, which includes meditating during the day, would all say it's best to have your eyes open, because this allows the light to come in, which helps you keep your mind sharp. But for most of us, we get so distracted, you know, so maybe have your eyes lightly closed, but have your eyes looking beneath your eyelids. Your eyes should be looking downwards, as if you're looking along your nose towards the ground. So that's your legs, your bottom, your back, your hands, your shoulders, your head tilted, the jaw, the tip of the tongue, the eyelids, and the eyes. Each of these points, and this has been found by all the great yogis over centuries, to be conducive, to enable your mind to meditate, because your body does not meditate. The mind meditates. So first, keep relaxing your muscles, but keep your body upright. Don't forget, stop tension. Do not tense the muscles, especially the abdomen. So now we're just going to do a little preliminary. This itself is a really nice meditation. This is very nice meditation. It's using a little bit of visualization. It's very tasty. It also helps us stabilize our mind. So we're going to do what they call the 9-round breathing technique. So what you're going to do is 3 sets. We'll just do 3 sets of. We'll do 3 sets of this 9-round breathing, and one 9-round breathing consists of 3 lots of 3 breaths. So the first 3 breaths, you imagine all the air coming out your right nostril as like yucky smoke. And it's your attachment energy, your neediness, your dissatisfaction, your attachment, your possessiveness. You're always wanting more, always dissatisfied energy, the attachment energy. Just imagine it totally leaving through your right nostril like yucky smoke, disappearing into space through the right nostril. Then when you breathe in deeply, you visualize all the air like blissful white light coming through your left nostril, blissful light, just like air, coming all the way down to your abdomen, and then it drives out all the attachment out through the right nostril. So like it circles around like that. Out through the right, attachment energy. In through the left, radiant light, driving out the attachment energy through the right. 3 times that one. Then the next 3, out through the left, all your anger, aversion, irritation, depression, despair, frustration, annoyance, all these words. Aversion. All that energy completely disappearing into space, the yucky smoke. When you breathe in radiant light through the right nostril, it goes all the way down to your abdomen and then drives out all the yucky aversion energy through the left, disappearing into space. 3 of those. Then the next 3, you breathe in through both and you breathe out through both. And 3, breathing out, all your ignorance, indifference, uncaring, that energy. 3 root delusions: attachment, aversion, ignorance. Or this disappearing into space, yucky smoke. Then when you breathe in blissful radiant light through both, it then drives out the ignorance, indifference energy like yucky smoke through the both, disappearing into space. So if you forget, just start again, don't worry. And don't do loud breaths, very complete, full breaths all the way down to your abdomen, but kind of not loud. And just think this, delight in this, want to do this, be happy to do this, thinking this way. Remember the tip of the tongue behind the top teeth, lips apart, eyes looking down, body relaxed, body upright. 3 sets of 3. all the attachment out through the right, all the anger out through the left, all the ignorance out through both. So now just relax mentally, wriggle your body if you need to, just about half a minute, and then settle yourself again, and we'll now do the focusing meditation. This is like we call this a preliminary, they often refer to it as a preliminary practice, to steady your mind first, which is a really nice one anyway in itself. So just wriggle around, get settled, and we'll do the next one. Concentration technique. Watching the breath. Okay, just check your body again, your legs, your bottom, spine, hands, shoulders, abdomen relaxed, body upright, head tilted, chin tucked in, tip of the tongue behind the top teeth, lips apart, eyes looking down along your nose as if you're looking at the ground. Settle into this position in a very unselfconscious way. So now we're going to locate first the sensation that we're going to focus on. So it's not totally one thing. It's got the air going in and out of your nostrils. So when you breathe in and out a couple of times, you can locate the sensation. You can sort of feel the air going in and out. It's fairly broad action, actually. What I mean is not that single, tiny. But you get that's the sensation you've got to stay focused on. That sensation at your nostrils. So breathe a couple of times, complete full breaths, not loud, and locate the sensation. Get very clear what you're going to focus on for 5 minutes. Okay, so what we're going to do, remember, the part of the mind that's going to watch is called attention. You've got another part of the mind that's going to help do that, and that's called, like alertness. You've got to have mindfulness, which is the part that doesn't forget. Then you've got alertness, which is sort of like His Holiness Dalai Lama called it one time, the policeman. It's kind of watching. And the sort of think of the attention as like a kid. Think of it like a kid walking on the edge of a cliff. The attention is that. Hopeless, disastrous, a kid. Then think of vigilance or alertness as like the mummy or the policeman, watching like a hawk. We don't recognise these parts of our mind, but just imagine. The millisecond attention wanders off, then alertness has to come and bring it back to the breath. If attention doesn't wander off, you don't interfere. So attention needs to stay on the breath as it goes out. Stay on that cessation as it comes in. It will naturally wander off. This is our nature. So alertness, it's like alertness brings it back. You're watching like a hawk. The second you wander off, bring the mind back to the breath. Bring the mind back to the breath. Bring the mind back to the breath. Don't beat yourself up. Don't say, oh, I can't concentrate. Oh, I'm hopeless, I can't meditate. Don't say any of that. It's natural. So if you bring your mind back to the breath 50 times a minute, that is a better meditation than spacing out for the minute and forgetting what you're doing, which is what happens. So be alert and sharp. Get a sense of alertness and sharpness. But at the same time, keep it relaxed. Combination of both, Simply watch the breath as it goes out, as it comes in. Bring your mind back to the breath. Just the breath. Don't space out. Keep the mind sharp, alert, just on the breath. Okay, relax. That was about 5 minutes, something like maybe 6. So you can see 5 minutes is really short, isn't it? In normal worldly terms, 5 minutes is like nothing, you know. But if you can see you pay attention for 5 minutes, it feels quite strong. So it's literally like you're trying to strengthen our mind, make it strong, a particular part of your mind. So that everyday life, if this gets stronger and stronger, you become more aware, you become more focused, you learn to know the bits of your mind. It's not just this. This is on its own is not enough. The job is to be your own therapist and know the contents, but you've got to imbue that job with okay, the job is to focus the mind, to be mindful, to be focused, to be focused, to be focused. But that's not enough itself. You've got to imbue your mind with intelligence and know what you do with what you're seeing. You're strengthening your mind to stay focused, so not just so there's anything holy about your breath. You're using your breath, that's all, as a tool to strengthen your mind so that your mind is more capable now of noticing your thoughts, noticing what you're thinking, and then being able to interpret what you're thinking. So it's just you're developing a clarity so that you can do the job of knowing your thoughts better, not just clarity for its own sake. Like Lama Zopa says, a thief needs it. So mindfulness on its own is useless. You've got to use it to be your own therapist. Can you see the point? I'm sure you can. So any questions from all that? Any questions? Any kind of questions? About the first one, the second one? Huh?
Just a question about
Yes, Felida.
on the shamatha practice of concentration, I find that the breath is no longer coming in subtly as breath without me kind of, it gets tense because I'm concentrating on the breath, and then it's kind of like, it's almost like it's getting sort of tightening up rather than just flowing in and out.
Where's it tightening up? What do you mean? Where's it tightening up? Really?
Like it's almost like it's no longer...
Well, then don't use your breath then.
Coming and going.
Don't use your breath then.
Sort of like,
Well, don't use your breath, Felida. Don't use your breath. It's just a technique. It's just a tool. Use any tool that works. Use your abdomen. Use you can, if you've got some practice from Tibetan Buddhists, then you just say a mantra. I mean, you can, anything. Visualize the Buddha. If it makes you tense, don't do it. Really don't. What I can say.
Because if you watch the breath, you can fall into this thing and then you're controlling it and then it's getting tight. Rather than it just flowing in and out
No, but I think you're getting too caught up in the idea of the breath. It's just something you're focusing on to keep your mind stable. So if it doesn't do that, then I say don't do it. Otherwise, it's getting too caught up, yeah. You see, one of the commonest reports of people who do these meditation retreats very seriously is that because you try to keep tension but keep relaxed, the combination, then people can get really, really freaked out, can really freak their minds out. The physical energies get very berserk, So it can be, this can happen. So you've got to be skillful, find another thing to think of, or just don't do it. Do your mantras instead. Wow, Any more questions? About the first one, the second one? Can you see? Huh?
If the breath is from the mouth...
What, darling? What?
If the breath is from the mouth...
No, they tend to say your nose. I don't know why. Maybe better because the channels are there, not from the mouth. It's better to be from here. The air's going in and out these channels.
It's not enough from the nose. I'm not taking enough air.
Well, then because your nose is blocked. I can hear you. You've got blocked nostrils. They can go and cut it out. Maybe you've got that thing. A friend of mine had this. He was blocked nostrils for years. They went and cut out all this stuff that's built up over the years. He said he got such a shocking... Every smell was so shocking to him. It was like everything stank. He couldn't believe it. And you got that maybe. A build-up of something around your nostrils. You can get it cut out. It's quite not complicated. Then, choice, dear. Don't choke. You better use your mouth. We don't want you to die. What else?
What I found very interesting for the upteenth time is the flow of thoughts between the breaths.
What do you mean between the breaths?
Well, there's a moment when you're not breathing, obviously. You inhale.
The pause.
Before you begin the exhale, there is a split second where there is no breathing.
I think you'll get too complicated. People, stop it. It's too complicated, Prem. What's your point? Forgive me. But what's the point of it? What's the learning from this? What's the point you're learning from this? What's helpful about this?
Oh, the fact that I'm observant of my thoughts.
Huh? You shouldn't be observing your thoughts. You're observing your breath.
You can focus on that pause.
Yeah, but that's another discussion. That's not the one I'm saying here.
Okay.
That's something else. That's one watching your mind and looking at between the space of the thoughts. But that's not the meditation here. This one is just watching your breath. It's boring. Just watch your breath. That's it. No intelligence, no complication. There's a million different variations of these meditations, and they've all got their own purpose.
Well, you can't help notice that the thought comes in.
I know that, but let it be there. Let it come and go. Do what it likes. That's the idea, but not to pay attention to the thoughts. That's all. And naturally, as we get more subtle, as the mind becomes more focused, it will naturally get more subtle, which means you go deeper and deeper, which means the thoughts begin to calm down and stop, and eventually the breath stops even when you're really advanced. And at that level, the mind is super blissful, super sharp, super focused, super subtle. A long way to go, though. All of these things will and won't happen, but none of it's the point. It's interesting to observe, but the biggest one to observe is the thoughts themselves. To notice out of the corner of our mind that there are the thoughts. That's why we think we're getting worse. Because random things just pop up, a million times a second you're hearing them, Even though you're watching your breath, still the stories are chatting away. And we're even involved in the stories because we're not single-pointed on the breath. Naturally, all this happens. But the job is to stay on the breath, to bring the mind away from the thoughts onto the breath. Of course we can't help but notice, but then learn from it by seeing what's there. And indeed, if they do stop, great, nothing wrong, fantastic.
That's where vigilance comes in and reminds you to come back to the...
Absolutely, that's right. Vigilance is watching and you can't even afford one step to be off that cliff. You'll be gone, you'll be gone. That's why I like that analogy, walk on the edge of a cliff. Not spacing out, which we tend to think this meditation is about. It's not. It needs enormous sharpness, alertness. Any more questions, people? Thoughts, observations, ideas, confusions? No? You can sort of see the benefit. The first one you thought useful? First one? First one interesting? You like the first one?
Yeah.
Attachment, anger, that one, the other three. It's very, itself is a nice technique, It's great. Often in our tradition we do that before we do other meditations, to steady you, But itself it's a perfectly nice meditation to do. It's really kind of tasty,
Robina, could you please remind me, we breathe anger out through the right?
No, that's right. They all say in this tradition that attachment's related to the right side.
attachment to the breath.
This is right, that's what they say. And one of the interesting things at the time of death, that the Tibetan Buddhists would talk about how it's even good to block the right nostril because the attachment energy is so strong, you know. It's very helpful. When you go to sleep, there's a way of sleeping like the Buddha does. You know that picture, you see the Buddha lying like this?
Yeah.
That's how he passed away. And they even say, it sounds very funny this, you stick your finger up like this. You know? You sleep like this. Breathe through your left. I can't do that, it makes me annoyed. I can't do it. But yeah, so you breathe out 3 times through the right attachment energy. Out 3 times to the left, anger energy, aversion, irritation, frustration, annoyance. Out through both, ignorance.
Okay. Thank you.
It's quite difficult to practice that without closing the nostrils. I found that we were focusing on those first ones,
Yeah.
the right and the
Yeah.
left. In yoga and Hindu, you actually block them.
That's right, again the same here, there's a way to do it. There's a whole way, but I forget it. There's this very dramatic kind of like you go, I forget now, there's a whole way I learned it, and I can't remember. You kind of go, something like this, and then you go, when you do it. I can't remember what it is, I wish I remembered. It's wonderful, you know, it's like you bash here, push there, push here, hold your nose, like this. You know? Same idea, but I can't remember the technique. Yes, same. You can even just hold it if you want to. If you want to, you just hold it. Yeah, you can. But part of the real point of it, you could do that. But it's also just visualizing, imagining, wanting. You know, that's enough. But if you can, you can hold it. No worries. You can do that. But often you do it. You got to do it this way. You do it with like this. I forget. I wish I could remember the technique. You look on, I'm sure you'll find it on the internet. The 9-round breathing technique, and you'll find someone showing it. I'm sure. You can block like this, as you wish. Yeah, sure. What else, people? Anything? It's too early for lunch. We can always stop early, I suppose.
In pranayama, we were taught that this actually happens with practice. You
What?
actually do inhale only through.
Oh, I see. Yeah, probably that makes sense. Yeah.
Without blocking the
Without
Oh,
blocking,
yeah, I
it
understand.
actually happens when you.
But
do
when you're
practice.
advanced, probably, yeah.
They actually
Yes.
put pieces of paper, and you can see that it's just flowing out one nostril.
Yeah. Any more questions, people?
I have
Yes.
it's not about meditation.
Yes, sir. Talk. Yeah.
I want to ask in terms of what Buddha would say, or Karma would say about genetic diseases in the family.
I understand exactly. So the physical condition we're born in, including the external environment, that's called environmental karma. So let's give an example. Let's say all actions have all 4 results, can have good or bad results. So let's say we think of a person who's born into this life with a really good human body, really healthy, no bad genes, good genes, they live till they're 97, you know, they eat whatever they want, everything makes them healthy, their body's good. That's first of all, getting the human birth is the result of strong, non-killing karma, and getting a good, healthy rebirth is, as well as a good, tasty environment where the water's delicious and the air's sweet and the food is tasty. That's all of that, including the physical body, healthy body. That's the environmental result of non-killing. The actual karmic result of getting a human body is the result of not killing. A healthy body with healthy environment is the result of the environmental result of non-killing. The tendency to not kill is the action similar to the cause of non-killing. So you're born with no tendency to kill, and then you live a long age, old age. You don't get killed or die young. That's the experience similar to the cause of non-killing. So if you are born into this life as a human, that's a fruit of virtue, non-killing, but then that's the main karma, but then you're born into a mummy who's got genes, defects, gets tendency to cancer, you understand? So that's due to the karma you created, you get born to that one, which hinders your health. You have a very weak body, sick all the time, food makes you ill. You live in an environment where the water's polluted, the air's polluted. All of that's the environmental result of killing. Do you understand? That's the Buddhist view. So they play a role, everything plays a role, everything impacts upon us, but it's due to our past actions that we get that environment, we get that body, we get that mummy, we get that whatever it might be, good or bad.
By eating meat, we're killing.
You're not killing when you eat meat, but you're connected to killing, there's no question. But so are you when you're eating vegetables. Because the Buddha would say there's not an atom of space you won't find sentient beings. Trillions of beings. You know, so in the vegetarian and vegan movement, we don't think about those guys. All the creatures, all the insects. I mean, the best vegetarian garden, you know, can still be killing millions of beings who've died at least you're not killing a human eating, an animal eating its flesh, but beings have died even for the vegetables, so...
We can't avoid killing.
No, you can't, precisely, that's the point. So therefore the Buddhist view is, given that we're living in this nightmare of samsara, where just by existing you're harming others, you do what you can. You have this kind of motivation of wishing not to harm. So you do everything you can to not affect, not to harm other beings. You can't stop it. Even if you're not eating meat, and even if you're being vegan, you still can't help. Some beings are suffering as a result of you existing. So given that, you do your best to try not to be involved in the harming of sentient beings. That's fantastic. Of course it is.
Or to eat as less as possible, no?
Huh?
To eat as less as possible?
Well, yeah, of course, some great yogis can live on the air, We'll go towards that, yeah. But even then you're breathing in creatures, no doubt, so you can't win. But at least you do what you can. And that's why the meat-eating one is a very volatile one, because I think we have so much attachment to food. We get very caught up about, vegans get very fundamentalist, and vegetarians get very fundamentalist. Even Buddhists, who are not supposed to stick their nose in other people's business, are always giving lectures, Like I put on my... I have a Facebook page that somebody else takes care of, and I had a picture of me in this cheese shop in Liverpool. I eat cheese, right? So then all my Buddhist friends, all the fundamentalist vegans, started lecturing me. Read this and you'll see all the suffering you're causing. So I I just didn't answer, but I put a link on there that shows that just by driving, we're killing trillions of sentient beings. I didn't want to be sarcastic and say, look at what we vegetarians and vegans are doing when we drive. But vegans and vegetarians don't go on about that. And vegans and vegetarians, one of the commonest things vegetarians say, because we get fundamentalists, because of attachment to food. It's because of our own attachment we get so upset about it. Other people when they do it. You understand what I'm saying? So I remember, like people will commonly say, if you eat meat, they'll say, that's just the same as killing. But I never hear anybody say the person making the fishing rod is just to blame like the fisherman. No one gets mad about the fishing rod makers. No one gets mad at the gun makers. That's just the same as killing. Well, why don't they get all arrested and put into prison? No one thinks that. But only when it comes to food, because we're so attached to food, people get very upset. This is my opinion, you're not discussing this, I know, but I'm just saying it myself. So we should mind our own business. People do what they like, We're the boss of our lives. Yeah?
I was thinking yesterday when I was eating shrimp.
Yes.
I was thinking about the shrimp,
Yes.
and that it wasn't my intention to kill.
No, of course not. That's right.
Anyway.
That's right.
And maybe because of our karma together,
Yes.
me and him,
Yes.
I'm eating him.
No, certainly that's part of it. Absolutely, no doubt. That's why, it's very interesting. Okay, it's very interesting. One Lama, he said when he was asked about eating meat, and there's various issues, and one thing he said was, yes, he said, I think eating meat probably lessens your compassion. Now, that's, in other words, from the point of view of one's own benefit, it's useful to be vegetarian. Of course it is, because if it lessens if it increases your compassion, and out of compassion you don't eat meat, then you're the beneficiary. Don't think you're saving the lives of many creatures, and that's something that I think is really important. This is a bit shocking to us, because we think, I'm lessening the killing of creatures. I don't think so. Because you see, one of the things, so it's various reasons to not eat meat. The best one first has to be because you want to develop more compassion. Don't think that's not good. That's fantastic. It's incredible. Because you see, then we all assume, because I'm not eating shrimps and I'm not eating meat, therefore less creatures are dying. I don't think so. There are more factors. You see, in our world, we would tend to think demand is what creates the need for more fish, you understand? But the Buddhist view would be there's far more things involved. There's first of all the karma of those shrimps, of the sentient being to be born as a shrimp, to be killed. Due to their past killing, you're born as a shrimp. Due to your past killing, you're born as a chicken in one of those terrible places. Due to your past killing, you're born as a pig where you get slaughtered. This is the Buddhist view, simple. So that as long as there are sentient beings doing the killing, they will get born as animals to be killed. So there's the karma of the people who do the killing. Some people have strong karmic imprint to kill. It's just the way the world is. We see it. You're not being rude, You kill people are fishermen, people are hunters, people go to especially the animal one. There's so many people who have the karma to be a fisherman. Like the example I said, the karma to go to work in the slaughterhouse and kill the pigs, whatever. So that when they've got the beings who've got the karma to kill, they're going to look for people to kill. Then you've got the beings who, due to killing, get born to be killed. So we've got all this mutual relationship. The killers meet the killed, you know. It's kind of tragic. It's the suffering of sentient beings. So the first thing, so they're all part of the environment, you know. So even you can suggest, it's fantastic to want to be a vegetarian. Forget the vegan one for a minute, to be a vegetarian, because you don't want to be involved in the killing. And then you hope one day enough people will bring the tipping point of vegetarians where the demand will be less. But that still demands that you have to have people who don't have the karma to be fish. Where people don't have it, because people are going to keep killing fish. So that means in the end, I think, even there'll be a glut of fish, you know. Because people will keep killing fish, and fish will keep being born to be fished. This is all part of the deal. You can't stop all that part. That's not your role. You can't stop that. All we can do is stop our part in it. You hearing what I'm saying here? And hoping that other people will do it as well. It will be a tipping point. If they ever will, I'm not sure, you know. So really the first one is don't think it's inferior that you want to be a vegetarian because you don't want to be involved in the suffering of fish. It doesn't mean they're not going to get killed though. Don't get all holy about yourself. And even with the vegan one, hang on, even the vegan one, which is incredible, you know, the suffering of the cows, the suffering of all the beings who give their milk for the cheese and the milk, it's apparently hideous. Again, be very happy that you consciously, because of compassion, don't want to be involved in that, but don't think you're stopping them from being harmed. Don't be naive, please. Are you kind of seeing the point I'm making? Are we communicating or not? So it's incredible and necessary to have compassion. This for sure. And then if you can stop the fish being killed, well, that's amazing. That's even more incredible, you know? Do you understand? But if you're going to eat meat, if you do tries, you're the boss. At least you say a mantra, and before you eat the shrimps, you say mantra, and you blow on those shrimps, and that consciousness is wherever they are now, they will get the benefit. This is what Lovers Over says, what the Buddhas would say. So at least there's some benefit, and you're thinking of compassion, you know? At least this. Then we can redeem our own negative karma, you know? For sure. So what's your question?
What about the idea of taking on the suffering of the animal that you're eating?
What do you mean by that, though? What do you mean by that?
That means if I eat beef, the way the animal was killed and the way it suffered went into its body.
And then
it's affecting me negatively. From the Buddhist point of view, is that...
No, I don't know. I can imagine. I don't know about that. I don't know.
Okay, because in some areas that's a big conversation.
No, I understand, but that's really for our sake. It's not for the animal's sake, isn't it? Just for us. Yeah. No, I don't know about that. I don't know. Maybe it's possible. I don't know. That makes sense, actually. It can be something. It can be... It's sort of like people who get hearts of other people. They talk about having visions and dreams of them because of the karmic connection of that body, you know. It could be possible. I haven't noticed it. I mean, I'm attached to meat. That's why it's really good for me not to eat meat. I know I'm attached to meat, you know. So it's very good for me, for myself, not to eat flesh. For sure, to be vegetarian. You know? That's for sure. Very clear. Some people aren't attached to meat. One of my sisters never has eaten meat. I said to her, she never talks about it. I said to her, why don't you eat meat, Jan? And she said, oh, all I see is a cow. How could I eat it? I nearly burst into tears. It was so sweet, you know. Do you understand? It was incredible. Another one of my sisters became a vegetarian because she was so offended on behalf of some 100-year-old fish that's considered a delicacy because it's kept from the depth of the ocean. She was so offended for the sake of the fish, she stopped eating fish, you know. I thought, wow, amazing. So kind.
Another question about there's also another, let's say, point of view that the tendency to eat meat may also indicate our, let's say, tendency to kill.
Of course it is. It's animal, sweetie, very straightforward. It is animal habit. Okay. Eating flesh is animal habit. For sure. Clearly. Of course it is. No question.
Right.
Of course it is.
So my point is like, if we try non-consciously to avoid it, then this, let's say, violent instinct will somehow manifest in
Darling, you're losing me completely. I've lost the plot here. Keep it simple,
so,
please. What?
I have a tendency to eat meat, okay, because this is the animal instinct and I want to...
No, you're just attached to meat. Okay, join the club. Then?
Okay, so,
then?
If I try to avoid it...
Avoid what?
Eating meat.
You mean you stop eating meat? Good. Then.
But not consciously. Just as like let's.
What do you mean not consciously, darling? You can't do anything without intention. What do you mean not consciously? Intention. I will not eat meat is what you don't eat meat for. What do you mean? What
no,
is
you are not encouraging the habit.
I can do it like let's say by suppressing myself. Not really.
Sweetheart, shh. I'm sorry, not really being rude. I sound so rude. Dear, I understand your point. What you're talking about is how to practice Dharma, which means you see you have an attachment to something, you see it's causing you suffering, you see you stop it. It's not suppressing, you just make a decision. That's all. And you stop jumping on girls every minute because you feel like it. You stop eating meat if you feel like it. That's what practice is, darling. Don't make it complicated. It's called giving up attachment. Come on. What's your point, though? Did you finish your sentence?
My point is like, if this tendency stops, let's say, be into eating meat.
What?
It may be manifest in some other ways.
Well, if you work on your... Dear, it's up to you to work on your mind.
Yes.
Alcoholics who give up alcohol all talk about now they're going to find something else to be attached to because they're not giving up attachment, they're giving up alcohol. That's the difference. That's the big difference. We're talking about giving up the tendency to want alcohol, and that's the hard part. You've got to first give up the object, but that's not enough. That's what you're talking about. That's where it's difficult. But the first step, that's why behaviour is the first step. You've got to refrain from the object. Of course, it's painful. People who give up alcohol talk about how they're alcoholics every day. It's fantastic. But every day, great, another day being sober. Another day, you keep eating freshly looking at it because you still have a tendency that's there and it'll be there till the day you die. That's how strong attachment is. People who have attachment to sex, you know, they try to cut their balls out and do the things they do. A friend of mine who was in prison in Australia who was addicted to having sex and jumping on girls, raping, you know, he looks like a girl now. He's got breasts and everything. They're giving all these hormones, you know. But his mind is still attached. Just his little thing can't go up. So it's the mind that's the point. And if you've got that intention, in this attachment in this life, and we've all got something, we've got to first harness it and stop doing the action. But it's hard work because you always want to. But as you don't at least stop feeding it, the attachment can begin to calm down. But you're practicing every day and watching like a hawk and trying to channel it and use it in virtuous things. So I was talking to Paros this morning about this. We've all got attachment because that's the nature of having a body. It's an attachment product. We're driven by attachment. So until you hardly realised emptiness and really perfected your mind, you will still have attachment. So this gets us to the bodhisattva path, which is the compassion wing. The first level of practice is there's no wiggle room. You just stop sex, drugs and rock and roll, best. And you go to the mountains and you get single point of concentration so you can begin to work on your mind. That's the first level of practice, which is fundamental. Now you get to the compassion wing, where you've harnessed your body, speech and mind, and now you're more brave and more courageous and can be involved in the world again, even sex, drugs and rock and roll, if you're really advanced. But you're channeling this attachment now to use it for virtue, to use it for good things. So I'm kind of joking to Paros this morning. I've got attachment like everybody else. But not to sex, not to food, not to drugs, not to possessions. That's just my monastic karma this life. But, you know, I like doing my job. So I go around to like 65 centres every year, hop on 60 aeroplanes. So attachment, one of its functions is always to look forward to the next thing. Do you understand? So the deluded attachments, like this boy I read about he's attached to sex, and he does his sex anonymous, whatever it's called, you know, like drugs anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Sex Anonymous, and he talked about he's addicted to having sex with girls. He's on one girl, already anticipating the next girl. Well, when you're eating your chocolate cake, already, you know, I drink my cafe latte in the morning. I'm attached to my cafe latte. Exactly the right milk with frothy in the cup, the right coffee, the medium grind, the this, that, blah, blah. I know how to make my coffee. I have one small bag. I have one set of robes, but I have a coffee pot. My little espresso, you know. I bought this cute pink one. Anyway, I'm attached to my espresso coffee pot. So I make my coffee. So as I'm hungry in the morning, and I haven't had a coffee since 24 hours, and it's delicious, right? So there I am drinking my cafe latte, and I'm enjoying the first mouthful. It was so divine. Already I'm anticipating the next mouthful. This is how attachment works. It drives us forward. So all the excitement, attachment energy of day-to-day life, now I'll do this, now I'll do that, now I'll go here, now I'll go there, that's attachment energy. So aren't we fortunate to have attachment to doing good things. That's how you redeem it on the Bodhisattva path. So I'm attached to going to this place. So as I said, I'm in Paros, but already I'm anticipating the Netherlands on Monday. And then I've got Latvia the week after. Then I've got Russia. Then I'm already planning 2017. And I'll be in Australia then. I'll be on Barbados over that time. Then she invites me to Romania. I'm happy. I haven't been to Romania before. I'll go to Romania. This is how I'm using my attachment energy. You get my point?
Yes.
Hopefully it's mixed with some compassion and some wisdom. I hope so. Do you understand what I'm saying here? This is the Bodhisattva approach. You use this energy, but combined with virtue. Don't be scared of it, you know. So yes, of course it's going to pop out some way. This attachment.
It's not about attachment, it's about what we're doing with attachment, actually.
No, you've got to get rid of it eventually. But given that we've got it, you be skillful.
But before we get rid of it...
That's what I'm saying.
Let's do something good about it.
You're just repeating what I said. You kind of communicating here? So don't be nervous about being attached to doing good things. Don't be nervous about being attached to your job of helping people. It's just that if it's only attachment, then you get upset when things go wrong. So the skill of this is it's like an energetic thing. You try to use it, but also be flexible and not worry if you've given it up. And this is certainly in my case, Lama Zopa and Lama Yeshe, my bosses, you know. I always do whatever job I do with 100% enthusiasm. But then I lose the job. He sends me off somewhere else, so I've got to hand over my beautiful work to the next person. The Mandala magazine I edited, the books I published, the prison project I started. Then I hand them over, you know. So you've got to give up attachment to them. You go to the next one, then the next one, then the next one. That's okay. Do you understand?
Yes.
So we've got to give up attachment to the rubbish stuff first, at least that. And then use it in the Bodhisattva path. The first part, there's no talk of using it. There's no talk of using it in the first stage. You've just got to control it and work with it, understand it, subdue your body, speech and mind, which is fundamentally necessary, because you can't use it if you haven't controlled it. You can't use... Huh?
The wisdom wing.
The wisdom wing is where you do all the nuts and bolts, how we've been talking until now. You can't use attachment if you can't control it and subdue it. Do you understand?
Yes.
And then the most advanced level of using it, of course, is how they talk about in the Vajrayana, you know. It's lunch. Are we communicating here?
Yes.
Yes.
I have to run.
Oh, she's got to run to the toilet before she goes to lunch to put in another meal.
No, I have to run home.
Oh, darling, I'm so sorry. Forgive me being personal. So listen, everybody. Okay, so enjoy your lunch, please. See you got attached to it or not, but then think of it as divine, delicious nectar, bliss, the nature of bliss, and imagine offering it to all the beings of the universe. And then you transform that mouthful of attachment. You transform it. You put goodness on top, you know. Makes your eating worthwhile. Do you understand my point? Yeah. Skillful means you can have your cake and eat it too. See you after lunch.
Thank you.
1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, yeah. That's right. Do your discussion again. You're doing your discussions? Very good. I'm so happy. Thank you, darling.